$10,000 per hour realistically, this is when you're making 8 figures, all right? You got to be making at least, so we're talking at least $800,000 a month. And one of my friends actually, before he sold his company, is making about 800 grand a month. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to systematically increase your hourly rate. So in the sheet that you're about to see, there are tasks that are divided into hourly rates, starting at -100, $0, $10, $100, $1,000 an hour, $10,000, and then $100,000 an hour. Now, you can easily calculate your hourly rate by just taking whatever you made in a month and then dividing it by working hours, which is 8 hours a day, or you can do it on a 24-hour scale, which is while you're asleep as well. So you can do both, but most people do it for the working hours. Now, I do have to give credit to Sam Ovens for providing me with this sheet and actually creating the sheet for us to, look at, but it's added so much value into my life that I've decided to make my own video to explain how I have used it to improve my business, my own hourly rate, and how I plan to keep increasing my hourly rate using this exact sheet. By the way, it's completely free. I'll post it down below. But in this video, I'm going to walk through each hourly task and show you how you can increase it, what it means, when you should do it, which tools should you apply for, because sometimes there are tools, there are hires you can make, there are things you got to just remove entirely, there are things that you should do, and there are things you should delegate. So typically it's delegation, automation, or just complete elimination, right? Elimination is the best. But you don't want to eliminate every task. So starting with -100, and obviously these are just, drinking alcohol, smoking weed, fast food, all that stuff. And by the way, typically you want to do a 7-day window where you write down exactly what you did for each one. And then you can see at the end of the month, or at the end of the week, all right, this is where I spent most of my time. And if you spend all of your time in -$100 an hour, what do you expect to happen? Fast food, hanging out with negative people, doing stupid stuff, avoiding problem that needs fixing. So, you're in debt, you have all kinds of problems with your life, and you're just not fixing it, right? So these are -100. So you want to eliminate these entirely, right? Especially the drinking alcohol. So you want to eliminate these -100 because they're just costing you money in the long run, health-wise, money-wise, and just in all kinds of ways. Next up, we have $0 an hour. So these are tasks that don't necessarily make you money, but they don't lose you money either. Like watching Netflix, scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, watching YouTube videos, playing video games. So these don't, they keep you at $0 an hour. So you're not making, you're not losing. You probably are losing with Netflix because, you're probably paying for Netflix. So I'll probably even say you are -10 for that. I'll probably put all of these -10, but they are probably at $0 an hour in the sense you don't make or lose money. And then we can look at $10 per hour. Now, $10 per hour, this is where most people are at and they stay at for most of their life. And the truth is, you're not going to make more money per hour if you stay in this zone. And these are the tasks, right? Like if you do these tasks, chances are you'll just stay in $10 per hour, right? Running errands, buying groceries, cooking meals, mowing lawns, replying to emails, customer support, editing your website, spelling, cold calling, just $10 per hour tasks. You already know what these are. Now, the most important part is actually identifying where you're at. So if you are in $10 per hour range, typically the maximum you will earn per month is $3,000 a month. Right? If we do 10 hours a day times 10 times 30, $3,000 a month. Now, your goal might be to go up to $100 an hour. And that's when you want to kind of start eliminating these tasks. And you want to start adding in $100 per hour tasks. So obviously some of these you might not be able to immediately eliminate them. So in my case, for example, because I started off earlier in my entrepreneurial days, I couldn't eliminate a lot of these tasks, but I eliminated whatever I could. And most of these things I would just batch ahead of time. So let's say food, for example, or I don't want to cook every day. I don't want to sit and just spend hours making food. I would just batch, and especially in my early days, I would just take one day, cook for the next 3 to 4 days, freeze it up, put it in the fridge, right? And then just like that, right? Or for breakfast, have something easy, quick, doesn't take up time, stuff like that. But those aren't the biggest ones, right? The biggest ones are the ones that basically take up your time, a lot of your time, right? Like cleaning, buying groceries, mowing lawns, and whatnot. So you really want to make a note of those. Even things like laundry, there are apps that nowadays they will literally come to your house, take all your stuff, and they'll bring it back to you, right? But to be completely honest, most people that are in this range, the issue is not that they are on the $10 per hour range. The issue is they haven't added $100 per hour activities into their life. So they're stuck just doing $10 per hour. So you want to start actually adding in $100 per hour activities to your life, and then the $1,000 per hour activities. You want to just start adding them in instead of staying focused on the $10 per hour, right? So $100 per hour. So this is where you're actually talking to qualified prospects. You know, you're writing those emails that get them to buy. Like you're pitching. You're creating sales pitches, right? You're like, hey, come and work with me, right? You're managing ad campaigns, PPC campaigns. You're outsourcing simple tasks. So this is where you're outsourcing $10 per hour tasks. This is where you're sitting down and you're like, all right, I'm gonna hire someone to make my food, clean my house, manage my house. I'm gonna hire someone to do customer support and cold call and answer my emails. I'm gonna hire someone to do appointment setting. By the way, appointment setting, that is probably a $10 hour task, by the way, in case you didn't know. Unless you do high leverage appointment setting, then it can kind of go into up to 50, I reckon. I mean, I don't know many appointment setters that make more than $5,000 a month, 6K, maximum 10. Realistically, you're gonna have to be a sales rep to really push past 10K a month. If you're doing sales, I don't see many appointment setters doing that. So that's when it comes to outsourcing simple tasks. Like you want to use tools like Fiverr, for example, Upwork. You want to just look at, all right, what is the task, like video editing? Like for me recently, I hire video editors. I have video editors for this video, for this channel, for my thumbnail, for my short form content. So like I've literally outsourced that. Like I would never sit and edit my videos. That's just absolutely not worth it. That goes, once again, because that goes in the $10 per hour task, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to accept, okay, it's $10 per hour, hand it off to someone else. Right. Hey, John. Hey, Susie. Can you do this for me? I'll pay you $10 per hour, right? Yeah, because obviously if I do it, it's just not worth my, like it's literally costing me money to do it. Whereas I can just create a job for someone else and have them do it, right? It's pretty straightforward. Creating best practice documents, posting content. Now, posting content, obviously you want to post content that gets clients, right? Like you don't want to be out here posting like garbage, because at the end of the day, it does have to net you $100 an hour over the long term. And this doesn't mean as soon as you do the task, you're going to make $100 back. Like it doesn't mean like, okay, like write an email and make it. Just means you're doing the inputs that create the output. So the output is, you probably make $100 an hour. If you get the output correct, you probably make $100 an hour. But it doesn't mean if you do the input, you're guaranteed to get the output. But it's impossible to get it without doing the input. I hope that makes sense, right? So you have to do it in order to potentially get it if you do it correctly. You know, posting content, once again, you're going to want to post content that generates you money. And obviously, you're going to want to look at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, how much did I post? How much money did I make? If I'm making more than 10, 20 grand a month, 30 grand a month, then you're doing it right. You're doing $100 per hour. If you just made a couple grand, you're not doing it right. And it doesn't mean that posting content is wrong. It just means you're not posting it the right way to get clients to come in. So you're going to want to analyze your strategy. Like, how am I posting it? What times am I posting? What is the content that I'm posting? Who am I posting it for? Who is seeing the content? And are they buying, right? Like when they come to you. So then you might look at your sales process, right? Because if they're coming to you and they're not converting into clients, you might want to look at yourself. Like, is your sales process actually working? Reading books and taking courses. This one is so important. I would probably put that at top of the list. You have to, if you want to be $100 even if you're making $10 per hour, you just start reading books, taking courses. You're immediately doing $100 per hour tasks. Especially if you go through high quality programs, high quality courses, and you're not just reading random stuff. You're actually training your brain and learning new things that are going to help you move forward. And the best way to know if you're learning the right stuff is it solving an active problem that you have right now, right? So if your problem right now is getting clients and you're not getting any clients, but you're going to go study how to hire a team, as valuable as it is to learn how to hire a team, that's not your problem right now. So it's basically you're just wasting time, because you don't need to know you need to know how to get clients. You don't need to know how to hire a CEO or hire some executives. Like, even if you knew that information perfectly, you can't execute information, and it's not your constraint that you're facing right now. So you want to be honest with yourself. What is the constraint that I have in my business right now, and what can I learn to fix that constraint and those problems? And if you learn, and the way you know if you're actually learning the right thing is what I'm learning something I can immediately apply and see feedback on, and then I can assess whether the content I just watched or learned is actually helping me, right? So if you're starting to get clients, let's say it's cold emailing that you're doing, and you're watching a video that's about a cold emailing strategy, is applying that cold emailing strategy actually getting you clients, or is it just wasting your time, right? Like if when you implement a strategy, are you getting clients? Are you seeing better results? And then if not, you're going to want to keep searching for new content until that happens, because until that happens, you haven't learned, right? So here it's about learning at the course. So if you haven't learned, you haven't improved, you haven't really hit the $100 per hour, you're just wasting time, right? Like at least you're trying, which is good, you're on the right path, but you do want to make sure that it's actually solving your problems. So take a problem-based, constraint-based approach to learning. So whatever the problem is, that's what you need to learn. If you're running advertising, your advertising not performing, you need to find training and coaching and whatever courses on how to improve your advertising. Once again, is it improving? That means you're doing correctly. Is it not improving? You're going to have to keep looking for new training until you fix that problem. So that's $100 per hour. Now, you want to try your best to get into this range at the very least. And just to keep it simple, by the way, $100 per hour is basically, for most people, is just doing, you're just doing sales calls, if you manage to do high ticket sales calls, you're definitely hitting $100 per hour. So just to simplify the whole thing, typically, if you're doing sales calls, you're closing clients, you're $100 per hour. So that should be your goal. And if you're not getting sales calls, now this is the secondary effect, right? If you're not getting sales calls, are you doing appointment setting, which then leads to sales calls? So are you posting content? Are you setting appointments? Are you messaging people? Are you doing 100 outreach per day? Are you going to events? Are you meeting people? Are you doing Zoom calls? Are you doing all those things that are allowing you to close deals? And if you're not busy closing deals on the phone, on a Zoom call, then you should be doing everything possible that allows you to basically close deals and get some Zoom calls, right? $1,000 per hour. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So planning and organizing your day, negotiating with a hot prospect. Now, it's important that I mentioned the hot prospect because not every sales call is equal, right? Because if you might do 10 sales calls, only 2 of them close. What is that? 20% conversion rate. Let's say you had someone else do sales calls for you, and then you took like the absolute best ones and you close at like 90%. That's where like the highest value for your time comes. Or you just set up systems in place to really filter out who gets to come on a call with you, right? You could do triages. You could have someone like an appointment setter, have them do triage calls, and that way increases your close rate. So negotiating with the hot prospect is just, are you talking with the most qualified person possible that's the most likely to close, as opposed to any call? Because if you're just doing random calls, meetings, all this stuff, that's not really $1,000 per hour. Really, it's when you get to that, you're negotiating with a hot prospect, like they're about to buy. That's where your time is the most valuable. That's where it's like they close for 5K, you just made $5,000 an hour over 5 hours, like 1K an hour. So that's kind of what you're looking at. Building sales funnels and webinars. This is easily $1,000 an hour activity. So this is building a VSL funnel, building that webinar funnel. And the reason it's $1,000 per hour, I'll tell you this right now, is once it's built and you build it correctly, this thing will make you millions, hundreds of thousands over the next 12 months. So it's easily $1,000 an hour, right? Because it's a high impact thing. You build a VSL video, you build a webinar, and this thing will last the next 6 to 12 months, 2 years even. And depending on how much money you spend and how much reach and impact it has, and this is something known as, Sam Evans has this as well, it's called a RISE project scoring tool, and it can actually measure the impact of the task that you're doing, right? So building a funnel that you're going to run ads to, or you're going to show on your YouTube channel, and it depends how many subscribers you have, how many followers, but let's say you run ads to it and 100,000 people are going to see it. This is such a high impact task that you must do immediately, simply because it's just the highest value in your time, right? And then delegating complex tasks, right? So this is where it gets a bit complicated, and this is where you're delegating the harder things. So obviously delegating video editing and all, like for me, for example, I've delegated video editing and whatnot. That's pretty easy. I have an appointment setter but that's a bit more complex. Put that in the middle. I wouldn't say it's extremely complex, but let's say I want to hire a fulfillment coach for my business. Something I could do, but that would qualify as a bit more complex, right? Because you want to get the right person in. They're going to coach my clients, so their time is valuable now. It's higher risk, high reward, high impact, because if they're coaching my clients, I don't have to coach my clients. And you got to pay them more. So this is a bit more complex task, and they're also responsible for my clients' results, right? If I get a client and this person is not coaching them, they have to get them the results. So it's more of a complex task. Writing ad copy or sales copy, this is high impact, because once again, if you're running ads, right, this is getting seen by so many people. So it's a very high impact. Creating PPC campaigns. So this is different to managing, because creating, you're putting the thing in motion. Like you're initializing the whole thing and you're putting a new campaign into motion, right? So that takes much more initiative, creativity, brain power to make a campaign versus just to manage it. Because managing is just, you're just checking the numbers every day, making sure it's all good, optimizing, duplicate, check the budget, spend more, spend less. That's very easy to do. What's easier is $100 an hour task, but creating a campaign, that's much more difficult because now you're really, because you're building the funnel, you're building the webinar, you're building the whole strategy end to end, and then you give someone else to manage the day to day. Similar to like an apartment building, right? Like I was just walking down the canals today. It's like, the person, that the architect that designs the apartment and how it's going to be built and who's going to come and designs the whole thing, his time is much more valuable than someone that comes in to do the construction, because doing the construction is a $10 hour up to $50 per hour task, right? But designing the apartment and the blueprint and all that stuff, I don't know what goes into it, that is like $1,000 hour plus. I probably even put it high, honestly, because it's such a high impact, highly valuable task. It could even go into the thousands per hour, depending on how complex the task is. Also, how many people. Obviously, if it takes more people, you got to divide that money between them. So, it is a very important task. So you got to think about it that way. Designing an apartment, building versus construction worker. Both are important, but they both do very different things. So construction people, they're managing it, building it. The designer has to initiate the whole thing, all right? They have to create the plan and initiate the plan. So that's how you want to see yourself when you think about these things. Creating, judging tests and experiments. So this is like A/B testing, experimentation. You're going to run this ad and this ad and this funnel with this funnel, and you're going to test and experiment headlines and videos and images and text and all kinds of stuff. So this is where you come in, and once again, you're creating an experiment. You're basically a scientist at this point, right? A data-driven financial scientist when it comes to marketing, right? So so that's a very important task as well, because especially, let's say, you're putting $1 million into this, $500,000 goes into this test, $500,000. So you have to decide what are you going to test, how are you going to test it, for what period, all that stuff. And then once you put it into motion, you can have someone else to manage it on a day-to-day and kind of track the numbers, make sure it's all working. It's whatever, this test is doing better, spend more today, spend more this week, basically manage it for you. But you're the scientist, you're the one that's making the thing. You're kind of putting it into motion. Next up, we have exercise, sleep, and relaxation. All right, so you might wonder, how is that $1,000 per hour, right? And I'll tell you why exercise, sleep, and relaxation is $1,000 an hour task. If you look at someone like Brian Johnson, you might be wondering, why does he spend $2 million a year? Why does he spend all this time on anti-aging, on his blueprint, on all these things, when he could be doing something else? It's because it is a high value task. Like $1,000 an hour is definitely worth, being healthier and having slept better the last night and having better relationships, relaxation and exercise. So when your time is worth that much, and this is the way Sam says it in his video, right? It's like living an extra 5, 10, 20 years, even if you're making $1 million a year, 100 grand, you make so much more money by living more and just being healthier. Because let's say next year, because this year you just sat down all day, you never moved around, you gained 50 pounds of weight. Now next year, you broke your ankle, now you have to go surgery for the next 3 months. For example, right? I'm just making something up. Now you've lost and you're making 20 grand a month, you just lost 60k because you didn't want to take care of your health. So you should always take care of your health, right? Exercise, sleep, because without you being alive and existing, there is no money to be made. And this is why, once again, Brian Johnson blueprint, he's spending millions, doctors, all this stuff. Really, if he can live another 30 years, if he's productive and healthy every single day, he makes more money, has more impact. So, and if his time, someone at his level, at least $10,000 to $20,000 an hour, I would attribute into his hourly rate. And this can vary between 24 hours, or is it just his working hours, but at least in that range for sure. Hanging out with smart people. This one's very important too, because if you hang out with dumb people, you're going to be the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. So if you hang out with 5 smart people, 5 intelligent people, business owners, entrepreneurs, or just like-minded, even if it's like scientists or doctors or whatever, people who help you get to that next level, and people who are 10 years ahead of you or just far ahead of you in your field, you're going to learn so much from just being around them, simply because they've achieved the things that you want to achieve, or they are just 5 to 10 steps ahead of you. So you're always going to want to be around those kinds of people. And this would easily be worth $1,000 an hour for you over the long term. Remember, this is not an immediate thing of, I hang out with this guy, I made $1,000, right? That's not how it works. So I read a book, I just made $1,000. It's more about over time, you start making $1,000 per hour. Meditation. So meditation is a massive one, right? Because if your thoughts and your space and your energy is all over the place, I would say meditation and just like your energy in general. If that's all over the place, your thoughts, you're negative, you're anxious and depressed, how are you going to make more money, right? So this is why I think, who was it, Mark Cuban or something, right? He would go into his private jet and just start reading books and basically meditating just because, right? Just because of how valuable it is. And his time per hour, he's making so much more money than just having to read a book, right? He could be getting on a call, he could be doing business, doing all kind of stuff, but instead they choose to meditate, right? Why? It's because he knows clearing his mind, clearing his energy, having some private space is going to allow him to think better, make better decisions, and over the long term, make more money. Remember, this is all about this is not immediately today. You take some space and then someone sends you $1,000. That's not how it works. But over the long term, all of this kind of comes into effect. Now we have $10,000 per hour. All right, so this is where it gets interesting. So $10,000 per hour, realistically, this is when you're making 8 figures. All right, you got to be making at least, so we're talking at least $800,000 a month. And one of my friends actually, before he sold his company, is making about 800 grand a month. I definitely know what it's like from his perspective, right? This is where you're hiring teams, you have teams in place, you've already hired people, and you're just doing the highest leverage task, right? Like you're putting CEOs in place. Well, in his case, he was selling his company. He's finding people to buy and sell his company. In fact, he could have even stepped into $100,000 per hour activity. But I'll probably put it at 10K because it took him quite a few months to sell his company. But so overall, probably put it at 10 grand now, but he sold it for millions of dollars. So it's in between 10K and 100K for sure. But generally, like creating an improvement price. So making your product better, because that's going to have the highest impact, right? Like if you look at Navarra, right? It's like if you're doing sales, it's because you don't know how to do marketing. If you do marketing, it's because you don't know how to do product. So you can see why a product is now at 10,000, whereas all the marketing stuff was $1,000 per hour. And then now for the product is at $10,000 per hour. And the second one is offer, product and offer. Because these are the highest leverage things you can possibly do. Because if you have these right, you need less marketing and even less sales, because this speaks for itself. So I'll just mention a few of these real quick. So hiring and firing team members, this is a massive, right? Because if you're paying a team member 5-10 grand a month to work in your company, it's not just their salary, it's also all the time they're wasting by being there, and you could have had someone better. So it's costing you the entire salary for the year. And I think don't quote me on this, but I think someone said you have to take the salary times 3 years. We're gonna want to look at Layla Hormozi, because she knows about this stuff, and she mentioned it somewhere about how much it actually costs an employee, like to fire an employee, and I think it was 3 years or 2 years, something like that. But anyway, it's a big amount, right? It's at least 1 year of their salary that's costing you when you're firing them. So it's very, very costly to keep an employee that's not supposed to be there and still be paying them every single month and not have the right person. And imagine they're then actually costing you money. Like let's say they're advertising for you doing something, and it's just you're losing money on top of paying them. So that's where it could get even worse. Values and culture, that's massive. So this is just bringing the team together and just setting that culture, right? Having those principles and your values and getting everyone aligned to the same direction that you want to go in. And that's 10K an hour, easily, right? Selling to groups. So this is webinars. This is massive groups of people, 1,000 people, 100 people. But mainly, remember, it's qualified groups, right? We don't just want any group of people. You can get 100 Joes in the room, but if they're not going to buy, you're just wasting your time. Once again, it's also about what's the output of your activity. So qualified groups, right? So in my case, I need to talk to 100 business owners, 200, 300 at a time, and that would easily put me at 10K an hour if I did the activity consistently as well. Public speaking to qualify, that's basically almost the same thing. That's similar. And then we have cutting costs. So if you have a software subscription that's costing you thousands a month that you're basically not even using, then you're going to want to cut that out, right? You have to cut that out of your business as fast as possible and save that money or reinvest it somewhere else. And it could be costing more. You'd be surprised. I've seen people pay agencies $10,000 a month when they don't need to. So some people are paying. And the thing is, the worst thing is when you're paying for a thing that you think you actually need, right? It's bad as it is when you pay something that you know is bad. At least you know it's bad. But if you believe you actually need it and you think it's valuable, when realistically, if we did a P&L analysis of your business, and we see you're paying 10K a month to an agency when you could easily be doing this in-house for $1,000 a month, you're basically losing an insane amount of money. So cutting that out, that's 120,000 a year. Not to mention opportunity costs if you took that money and did something else with it, right? So that's something to think about, right? Is you got to think about these costs, because at the end of the day, it is about cost, right? If you're making 100K and you're spending 100K, you made nothing. So you have to remember to stay profitable as a business and not just spend all your money unnecessarily. And then lastly, the $100,000 per hour, this is just Warren Buffett level, right? This is capital allocation, right? This is radical innovation. This is long-term partnerships, restructuring, salary and incentives. So this is bringing people in, giving them equity, giving them long-term compensation plans. So if you see with software companies, right, people getting paid $300,000 a year plus stock options plus equity. I have no idea how that stuff works, but they get paid all these things. This goes in that category, right? Like whoever manages that, because you want to make sure you do that, right? You don't want someone else to start paying your employees because their incentives are not as aligned as yours. You want their incentives to your incentives to be put into place because you own the business, you know what's best, right? Like someone else that you hire, they might just overpay them because they just don't care as much as you do, right? They might overpay them by 10%, 20%. And if you apply that across everyone, you can see how that starts to become problematic. So you always want to control the compensation. And it's one thing, you never want to outsource. Definitely consult people on it, and, get advice on it and all that stuff. But don't just hire some person to decide how much your employees and people get paid. That is just a terrible decision. Like I said, get consulting. There's nothing wrong with getting someone coming in, you pay them and they advise you on how to pay people. But don't just get someone to kind of decide and do it for you. That's a recipe for disaster because once again, their incentives are not aligned with yours. So if you just get someone, chances are they're going to overpay. Or they might even severely underpay and you're going to lose talent. So once again, you want to pay properly, appropriately, accurately. You don't want to overpay. You don't want to underpay either, right? Because you might have a great person. You need to pay them what they're worth, what they're bringing on. And this is where you come in to decide how much they should get paid and what makes sense for them. And really, if you look at the things that Warren Buffett does or big software companies, right? They have a new project, a new product that they're putting out that's gonna one thing, it's all about the impact of the decision. Like if you want to think about these hourly rates in a simple way, it's like, what's the impact? It's like cleaning dishes, this much impact, right? Talking to a prospect, or a little bit more. Negotiating with a hot prospect, a bit more, right? Creating a whole product and offer and negotiating major deals and hiring team members, more, right? And then salary, capital allocation, more. So you just want to see also what's the impact of those tasks, and you can see kind of how big it goes. Typically, most of these things are financial, right? So there could even be another sheet that shows the actual financial ROI, right? Because when you do dishes, there's no financial ROI on that, right? So it doesn't mean you never do it. You can still do it, but the point is you want to have majority of your day, and this is where people can kind of get caught up as well. It's like, all right, I'm never gonna cook a meal in my life again. Because you might see this and you might say, all right, I'm just never gonna cook a meal again. I mean, that's one way to think about it, but really the way I like to think about it is, how can I make sure 80% of my time, right, is in the high value task and 20% is just whatever, right? It's just whatever I want to do. Because if you just get the 80% right, the other 20 doesn't matter. So if you spend you wake up in the morning, the whole day you're just working, you're working on the $1,000 an hour, 10, mainly 1K an hour to 10K an hour, depending on where you're at, right? And then whatever, in the evening, you just make yourself some food and whatnot. That doesn't really matter. Don't focus on those little things. Don't focus on the 10%. At least not now. At least not until you're at 1K plus. So focus on the 80%. What does the majority of your day look like? Is the majority of your day $10 an hour? In which case, you have to change that. You have to go out of your way to fix that. If the majority of your day is at $1,000 an hour, I can assure you, you're probably doing fine. My case, I will still do stuff in my house. I have no problem with that because I know I just make sure that in my day, in my week, I'm hitting my 1K an hour tasks. Even now, recording this video, right? I'm always making sure I hit those tasks. And as long as I hit them, as long as it's 80% of my time, I'm good. The other 20, who cares? I have to run errand, go to a shop, whatever, Doesn't matter. I just make sure it doesn't dip above above 20. And another big hack that I do is all those little tasks or whatever, and because typically I like to work 6 days a week. So all those little tasks, I like to just push it for 1 day per week. So 1 day, because I like to take 1 day off a week, and 1 day where I just do all those little weird tasks, like the little things you just have to do. Buy this little thing from the shop if you have to, right? Or someone's coming in, or just those weird tasks. You got to meet someone. You just block them all out for 1 day. All the tasks that are like $0 an hour, $10 an hour, block it all off for 1 day, right? You got to do laundry, you got to do this, you got to cook food, you got to do groceries, you got to run errands. Just do all that in 1 day. Literally, if you just do all that in like on a Friday or a Sunday or whatever day is your favorite day to do these things on, then the rest of the week you're free. Then you have 6 days free. And this is what I did even when I didn't have much money, is I would just Friday or Sunday, I would buy all my stuff, do all that stuff, meet my friends, meet this, meet family, meet that, do this, do that, do my errands, and then I have 6 days of just pure work. This is why I still do to this day, by the way. Like, no one can reach me almost ever, really, but at least not during my 6 days. The people that could reach me that don't reach me. So, like, literally, my phone the whole week it never goes off, almost never. And that's how your phone should be, ideally, right? Like, it should just never go off. Like, why? Like, yeah, that's how I think about it. It's like, how much time are these things taken out from your life? Like, if your phone's going off, people are texting, like, no one can even ping, like, all my notifications off, no one can text me, no one can reach me. It's basically almost impossible to reach my phone anyway. Obviously the social media and whatnot, but once I can choose when I check that. But the point is, you should always have a little bit of time in your life where people can reach you, and you gotta decide when that time is, as opposed to letting people just reach you anytime and just WhatsApp you and iMessage and call you, text you. Like, and the thing is, to an extent, you have to like train and inform people around you that these are your standards, right? Like, I can only be reached on Friday. That's it. So with me, everyone knows this. There's at this point, it's just normal, because I've been running this system for years, and it's just normal. Like, no one ever calls me. They just know exactly how to reach me on like my standards, and it just works. It works. I mean, I'm happy, they're happy, they know how it works. So if you're used to now responding to everyone, like they WhatsApp you and you're just like on your phone immediately, and they call you and then all that stuff, you have to slowly set standards with every single person and create a schedule, and like around Fridays, and all you have to set that up, right? Otherwise, you're always going to be stuck in a $10 per hour range. So that's what I have for you today. Also, one more thing I would put in 10K that he hasn't put in, or even 1 to 10K, is like tax planning. So, because that's a massive one. Probably goes under cutting costs. So I'll probably put on, but specifically tax, like lowering your taxes. That's a massive one. So that has to be under 10K. He hasn't put it in the sheet, but maybe I'll add it in. And by the way, you can download this down below. So literally just download this video. I mean, the template for the tracking sheet, and just take 7 days to go through this and see where your time goes. And it literally shows you like how much, what your hourly rate is. All right. So just do it for 7 days, put in the hours, estimate it, and just every day, just for like 7 days, just write down, all right, this hour I did this hour I did some dishes, this hour I, did groceries, this hour I did some calls, this hour I did some tasks. Just see this hour I watched some Netflix. Just see what you did, fill it out, do it for a week, and just see where you're at. How much is your time worth? Is it $15 now? Is it $100, $200? And it doesn't matter how much you're making. I still do this. I still look at this all the time. I think about it all. It's more about a thought process as opposed to just being on a spreadsheet. Just how you think about it. So I think about this all the time. How do I get to $1,000 to $10,000 per hour? That's my next range. $100 I've already done a long time ago. $100 now is just, I did that years ago. I'm at least 1,000 to 10,000. So I'm always thinking about how to do that. So do the sheet. Let me know your questions below. What questions do you have about this? I want to hear your questions. I'll answer every single one of you personally. And let me know what hourly rate you get. Do it for 7 days. Come back and just post it. And I'll give you some feedback. If you're like, this is what I'm doing, I'll give you feedback. But that's what I have today, and see you soon.